Hello, everybody. Welcome to a new episode of Film Seizure. I am Jeff Arbuckle, and this week we're going to talk about a movie that actually I almost died watching. I'll get to that story here in a little bit. 1980s Popeye. With me, as always, Charles Moore. Charles, how's it going?
It's going well. How are you, buddy?
I'm doing okay. Did you have your spinach today?
I did actually have my spinach today in a salad.
Hey, fantastic. I used to like the canned spinach. My mom would make it with a little bit of vinegar, and it was good. Heated up.
Yeah, well, that doesn't get eaten in my house very often. There's not a lot of spinach fans here of the canned variety.
That's fair. I did not have my spinach.
I don't do much canned spinach, but frozen spinach and fresh spinach.
I think, and by the way, that's Jason Oliver. Jason.
Yeah, I'm here. You guys owe me an apology.
I hope you say that 37 times in the first minute.
All right, coal oil. Anyway, I think the reason why I got the spinach a lot was because there used to be a brand that Popeye was on. And so as my little kid brain worked, was like, that's what I want. And my mom would get it and I'd eat it. I'd actually eat it.
I remember the frozen box spinach that had Popeye on it. We've probably seen there's company. A can too.
Well, it was like Popeye brand spinach.
It might still exist.
It probably does.
Probably.
I can't imagine
35
Popeye.
milligrams of iron in it. Sorry. Go ahead.
I love that there was a chemist error in math that overestimated the amount of iron in Popeye in spinach. And so it got this reputation for being this super
really good for kids.
This super vegetable, and that it really wasn't at all. I mean, it's good for you, but it wasn't that good for you.
And I'm sure the canned version that's all like basically seaweed and then mix it with vinegar like my mom did when she would essentially boil it in vinegar. Right. I'm sure that takes away a lot of its potency.
Oh, it's Allen's.
It probably
make the best green beans, canned green beans. They make Popeye spinach.
There you go. That's what I grew up on.
Packed with nutrients, makes a perfect addition to any family meal.
It does, kind of.
See, we used to do a little bit of heavy cream. Do a little cream spinach. That's the bomb.
I mean, as a kid, I wouldn't have wanted that. I didn't like cream corn as a kid. So.
I don't like cream corn either, but I love me some cream spinach.
Anyway, so we're talking about 1980s Popeye. I really do like this movie. I kind of expect this to be a little bit of a Dick Tracy episode.
I think you're right. And I don't think for the reasons you might think, though.
Okay. Okay. Well, we'll get into that. So I guess Jason went to go buy some Allen's Popeye spinach.
He doesn't want to talk about this movie.
He just left. I guess he's just going to say, to hell with this episode. He's just gone.
Well,
wait, he's come back with. Maybe. Did you go and get some Popeye spinach, Jason?
I had to find my notes.
Oh, okay. I was saying to Chuck that I kind of feel like that this is maybe potentially a Dick Tracy episode, but we'll see. You and I talked a little bit last night.
I'm not going to be that mean. I mean, but I didn't really like this movie.
That's fair. Yeah. This is a movie that does not have much in between. Yeah. Either you're in for it, or you just don't like it.
There are a lot of moments that I really, really like, but as a whole, not so much. So I'm going to focus on the positive, and I'm going to focus on some of the Tales of Hollyweird, because holy shit, there's a lot of Tales of Hollyweird around this movie.
I was going to focus on the positive, so instead I'll focus on the stuff I did not like. Because honestly, I'll get this out of the way now. There are parts that I really liked of this movie too, and there are parts that are very uneven and weird to me that I was like, I I don't get where we're going here, but let's discuss it naturally.
Okay.
You know,
So first and foremost, I probably watched this movie before I ever really saw a Popeye cartoon.
Interesting.
Most of that is because this movie came out. I was, it came out a couple of months before I turned 4, so I probably saw it shortly before I turned 4. And there's a very specific thing. I kind of teased it already. I'll get to it here in a little bit or in a moment. But like, I probably have watched more Popeye cartoons as an adult than I ever did as a kid. And I probably watched this movie as a kid far more than I was ever interested in watching Popeye cartoons. It's a weird thing. I think there's just something about this movie that as a small child, it really kind of clicked in my little kid brain. I don't know if it was just because I was seeing something that was sort of cartoony in some ways, but playing out in live action, like, it's like, I have watched the Superman movies far more than I ever watched the Superman cartoon, and there was a successful Superman cartoon multiple times throughout my life, so it's kind of weird. I don't know if that's just something that my brain registers something differently because it's live action. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, there was an 80s Popeye cartoon that sucked. It sucked so bad.
I don't remember seeing that. I only remember
Popeye and
the
Son.
black and white.
Yeah, it was Popeye and Son, and it was kind of like a modern Popeye.
Yeah, that was terrible.
Yeah.
I remember, I'll share my relationship if you don't mind.
Yeah, go for it.
I know for a fact I was a huge cartoon fan before I ever saw the movie, because it's like the original Ninja Turtles situation for me, where when the cartoon came out, I was like, the turtles don't have different color masks. Well, right. Popeye doesn't fucking have hair.
Sure.
Like, I remember being angry that Popeye had blonde hair. Like, to a point, anger, right? As a 10-year-old, whatever age I was when I saw this. But I watched Popeye cartoons all throughout my childhood. And I probably saw this movie late 80s.
Okay.
Right? Like it wasn't like an early watch for me. It was kind of like, oh shit, and I probably didn't say oh shit because I was 10 or so. There's a Popeye movie. I want to watch that. And I loved Popeye cartoons when I was a kid. I quite liked this movie when I was a kid. I watched this movie last night and I was like, have I lost my relationship with Popeye? I watched some cartoons today and I was like, I just don't get it anymore. I don't know why. But I think that's part of it, is like whatever I loved about Popeye I think I really liked the violence when I was young.
Probably. Oh, I mean,
to be totally honest, like,
we grew up on stuff like Wile E. Coyote, and yeah, of course. I mean, so it makes sense that we would have been drawn to him and Bluto fighting.
Yes, and that's the parts I remember, right?
Yeah.
At least whether I liked them the most, that's the part I remember. And so, yeah, I had a weird relationship with this movie when I was young because of the hair, and like, it is totally weird for Popeye in general. I think
I was
talk
telling,
about later.
Yeah, I was telling Jason that I kind of feel I have a suspicion on one side of it, but I think he has some backstory too, perhaps.
I do.
Yeah, because I mean, yeah, I mean, and we've already brought up. I already brought up Superman. This is post Superman. Like, let's just see what we can get out there that might be profitable too. I kind of get the impression of,
well, yes and no. Yes, definitely, but it wasn't Superman. It was Annie.
Okay.
Paramount, specifically Robert Evans, really wanted to option Annie when it was on Broadway, and they got outbid, and it became obviously a massive hit. So he kind of basically asked the Paramount people, what other cartoons do we have the rights to? And they said Popeye. So he was all in on Popeye. And Popeye kind of fits his own personal mantra of, I am who I am, right? So he's like, perfect. And he was all in on Popeye. And also all into a big old bag of Coke.
Gotta love Robert Evans.
But I've got more on all that later. My personal relationship with Popeye was definitely the Max Fleischer cartoon growing up.
Yeah.
Loved it. I still love that animation style, that Max Fleischer animation style.
It's all very fluid. Like everybody moves very, almost like they're made out of like.
Their arms it's like a bunch of windmills.
It's kinetic.
And
it's kinetic.
It's like they don't have bones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I remember the Popeye movie was on TV all the goddamn time. And I would always catch it at like different moments, and I could just never sit down and watch it. It just bored me like so much as a kid because it did not have the same energy that I was used to. I even remember in my kid brain thinking how perfect Robin Williams was, because I knew Mork and Mindy, right? How perfect he was as Popeye, and how perfect Shelley Duvall was, who I didn't know who she was, but I was like, that looks.
She looks like fucking olive oil.
She looks exactly like her. Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember thinking that, but I just couldn't connect to it. I just couldn't. It just never worked for me. It would be one of those movies where like if nothing was on, I'd let it play, but I'd fall asleep. Right.
Yeah. I mean, I think that because I had mentioned this to you, that some of the energy reminds me of that kind of post Superman. This is a thing for kids that we need to market it to adults. So it needs to kind of be a different type of energy. It needs to be a little bit more quote unquote realistic in feel.
Yeah, maybe. I think there's a couple different things. Probably, they're probably playing on adult nostalgia.
Yeah. For
the property. I don't know how really popular Popeye was in 1980 when it came out.
I know that the main reason why I probably saw it in the theater with my family was because particularly my brothers probably grew up on the cartoons, through the early 70s. And so, because those probably played on TV a ton.
They've been playing on TV for 30 years by the time they were on constantly.
Absolutely. Yeah. And by the late 70s, there was the Hanna-Barbera had taken over and did the newer Popeye, and then that Popeye and Son later were Hanna-Barbera cartoons. But which of course at that time Hanna-Barbera was they ruled cartoons at that point on TV.
Right. But I think a big thing with the tone is because Robert Evans very specifically wanted to adapt the comic strip and not the Fleischer cartoon.
And that's probably an extremely different feel.
Bad move, Evans.
Yeah, and I don't think it's the right move. I don't. I think it would have been a better movie if it just had a more upbeat energy to it. I think the next bad move was, and I like Harry Nilsson, but the music is not that good. It's just not.
I am completely and totally opposite of you on that.
Can I add to this? Because this is something. So apparently there were some side conversations going on yesterday because I was talking to Jason about this. I don't feel, with the exception of like 2 or 3 songs, honestly, that the people singing them wanted to sing them. Most of the time, like, it seemed very like phoned in. Like, I don't want to get ahead, but the I'm Mean Bluto song. It's like, are you? It sounds like you're complacent. Like when he acted it, when he's like, where's olive oil? Like, I buy that. Mm-hmm. But when he's saying it, it's like, no, you're not mean. You're whatever. Well,
that's where we have a Robert Altman fuck up, because he shot almost and recorded almost all of the songs on set. If he had recorded in a studio, it would have sounded more alive. It would have sounded more present, and they could have done, I think, making more orchestral would have brought the energy up. But yeah, the way the music the songs are recorded, it almost feels like a little too theatrical.
I almost think it's unfair to say the songs are bad, because I don't even think we got the best version we should have.
Right, you're right. I mean, I do like some of the songs a lot. Like, I think that that "He Loves Me," which was one of the most panned songs, I think is one of the best songs.
That and the song after with Popeye are wonderful.
Yeah,
and those are the moments that I think are geared for adults that work.
Yeah.
Really well. Sorry, go ahead, Jason.
No, I agree with you. And it's interesting because those are two of the lowest energy points of the movie, but that fits the tone is right.
It felt right.
The tone is right in that moment. Yeah, exactly.
Well, a couple of things that I'll add to. I've heard some of the demo versions of the songs, and they do feel different.
Yeah,
like on their own, they feel like songs on their own.
Yeah.
Which, okay, that's fine. But what I found kind of weird is that there is no consistency in which the songs are placed. So in a way, this movie is kind of straddling a weird line where it wants to be a musical and it doesn't want to be a musical.
Yeah.
Never more evident at the end when Poop Deck Pappy is he singing his song? He has a song. Is it a fucking song?
Right.
Like, I don't fucking know.
Yeah. I mean, it's right. Because there were times in which there were, okay, so we got a couple of different iterations of the Sweet Haven anthem.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Okay, fine. So
that's a fine anthem.
And
it is, but
I like that.
It needed to be much more bombastic in the beginning. Like, it needs to be louder.
I can accept that.
It needs to set a tone, right?
Well, I think it sets the right tone, but it's not great because these people don't believe what they're saying.
That's true too. Yeah.
But go ahead, Jeff. Sorry.
I do think one thing that is setting the tone on is the mire that this town is in.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
That's
so fair. They wake up every morning singing this song, because we find out later, it's like, yeah, Cole knows the lyrics. He's not singing it.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's not going to do it.
It's almost like a Truman Show kind of feel. Like we're going through the motions of this beautiful life we have. Yes.
Which is funny because it's like, it's not actually a beautiful life. They are...
No, they know that they're being oppressed. Yeah.
They're being oppressed by a tax man, which... I think that tax man does a lot of work in the first 30 minutes, because what you don't realize is not until the final, like until you get to the third act, why taxes are so like collected the way that they are, is because the guy who's running the town, which we won't spoil yet, is
the Commodore.
The Commodore is very, very money hungry.
Mm-hmm.
And he's a miser for it. So it's like you kind of set that tone with the tax man, which I do find funny that all Popeye does is accidentally knock him into the water and he's the town hero.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, like, everybody loves Popeye.
That's a good moment.
Yeah. Well,
that is one of the good moments.
Well, it pays off Popeye's character of being he is always shown in a good light. He is always doing a good thing for people.
And if you want to connect this movie to last week, that's Taxman's Donald Moffat, who was in The Thing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. He was the guy who ran the station.
He was the sheriff.
Yep.
The sheriff guy. Yeah.
Yeah, he had the station commander or whatever. Yeah.
But it's one of the things, and this was a complaint that I had last year, and it's a complaint a lot of people had with the Bob's Burgers movie.
Oh yeah.
Because it was a movie that is nearly 2 hours long, and the Bob's Burgers movie had like 4 songs, so they're so spread out. where it's like, this doesn't feel right. It's you're not putting them in, you're not giving them enough of that musical feel that the show properly sets up, because every episode has a song.
Right.
So
Well,
it's
in
like
this one, there's no resonance to any songs, because it feels like every time there's a song, there's another one right after it. And
Well,
then there's
if it's
dead
not-
space for a long time.
there was one time
Or the
in
songs are
particular-
really short. I mean, and honestly, like just a little pedestrian at times. Especially in the first
I
act.
do want to talk about that, though, because I kind of agree with that choice to make them pedestrian, because these are simple folk.
Yeah.
Now, I get you're in a musical, so you should put more into
But they're
it.
not great songs.
No, they're
you
not.
know?
If that's what you mean by pedestrian, I don't know, though, because if I had the full voice of someone singing some of the earlier songs, I might have liked them better.
Well, that and maybe, if they weren't sung by the actual actors.
That's what I'm saying. Well, even if the actual actors had, like, you already brought this up, I don't want to beat it to death, but if you had those actors in the studio to sing the songs and not be concentrating on whatever else they need to be doing in the moment on the stage or whatever,
Oh yeah,
like, you might have gotten a better, more nuanced performance in the songs, because you could tell they're trying to act in them.
Yeah. There's too much expected of them.
There's like the song that Olive sings when she's running away, the He's Large. She's got to do a lot. She has to work hard in that scene.
Yeah.
To do both the singing and packing her bags, and while the other girls are looking away or looking, there's a lot going on in that scene.
This probably sounds stupid, but a lot of the music to me sounded like a stage play, but maybe done at a collegiate level.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
No, it doesn't help either that, some of these actors just don't have great singing voices, right? Like, I mean, as perfect as Shelley Duvall is for Olive Oil, her singing voice is pretty bad.
Well, do you have notes on that? Because I don't think Olive Oil can sing either.
No,
I think that is an Olive Oil.
But if you're making a musical, the music should be listenable, right?
Yeah, but you can't. But you can't break the character to sing a song.
You can, though. You can.
Not for Olive Oil, dude. There's no way. There's no way that you can. You can't take her out of her character.
You could give her a squeaky good singing voice.
That's what I'm saying. I would expect her to be a little out of tune and hit some high notes. The problem for me in those songs where that happens with her is that there isn't enough swelling music behind her.
Yeah, she has no help. No help. Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
So I'm okay with the character driven aspect of the songs, but they almost feel alone when they're doing it in large parts of this movie. Jeff, I'll be honest, I really want to like this movie. I love the beginning, the town, like Popeye coming in. I'm like, that looks great. I'm all in for this.
Yeah.
Shit.
So that was one thing I definitely wanted. That was one thing I wanted to say, is that two things I want to say about the way that the movie is put together is that it is it is a ramshackle town. I said last week that look out for, because I do think that there is kind of a vague timing of this movie where, like, when does this movie take place?
It's not the normal Popeye time. In my view, like, I feel like there's metal ships in the real Popeye, but
which is weird, because I thought, because like I see Popeye as being a Depression era character, a character that rose to popularity during the Depression. So
yeah.
So, but the main point that I was saying behind that is that whenever he went someplace or wherever you see him, it's not a nice part. It's not a nice town. Like, it looked like a port city before port cities became these overly nice cities that we see today.
It's a port city that time forgot because it's
Right.
just sitting on a cliff. There's no city to build on this port city, right? Like,
right. And it's all like just pieced together with whatever these people can piece together with it.
right.
Because also they have no money because they're taxed out the asshole. You know, it's
And
like,
that's why they charge more for what people want, like the capitalism joke or whatever.
sure.
But yeah, like you want spinach, it's a nickel. You want you want carrots. That's $2 a piece if you really want them.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. But but like the one thing I like about the movie as a whole, as an overarching idea, is that I do think that this movie does pretty much swing for the fences. It wants to have this kind of in a shitty looking city or town. It is, while I did say it's kind of doing a weird thing with the musical choice, where it's like, you know, you go a long period of time in between songs to the point that it's like, yeah, but they also, it's like Shelley Duvall in earlier movies that she made was not an ugly woman, but they kind of ugly her up. They kind of make her unlikable in a way. She's always bitching about something.
I mean, that's olive oil, though.
Well, but but in a way, but like they're not trying to sweeten her up in any way.
No,
they're not trying to, it's not like making, I don't know, like Megan Fox be April O'Neil or something. It's like you're not glamorizing her at all. You are putting Robin Williams into a situation where he has very comical, large forearms. Like, I mean,
Popeye's not a good-looking man either.
No,
like in the cartoons. Robin Williams is better looking than Popeye.
Sure, but I mean, but like you're not really trying to gloss the movie up at all.
I find that interesting that you say they're trying to swing for the fences, because I feel like they're trying to bunt a runner home.
Yeah.
I don't mean that like
they built this magnificent set, like a working town, and then that was like the best thing they did. Well, they just stopped trying to hit home runs, and they started bunting.
Like even Robin Williams, and I know there's an argument here for his being kind of reserved, but they didn't even let Robin Williams be Robin Williams in this movie.
So I was going to say something about that too. I actually don't like Robin Williams comedies.
Insane.
It's like everybody, and oh my God, how many times does Mrs. Doubtfire come up in and I don't really care much for that movie. I saw it once. I thought it was fine. I never saw it again.
Robin Williams mainstream stuff, maybe. Like Robin Williams is best when he's funny, but also like tugs at your heartstrings.
Well, that's where I would say, like, like his roles, like in The World According to Garp, or Dead Poet Society, or Good Will Hunting, or Good Morning Vietnam. Those are really good roles, and he does have moments in each of those movies where he kind of ramps up a little bit.
What about The Fisher King? Because he's great in that too.
Gosh, I haven't seen that movie in a while either. I did like that movie. And I liked him in that.
Okay, so let me. I just want a baseline, if you don't mind. Mork and Mindy, then. No.
So. I
mean, that's a straight up comedy, goofy shit, which I find funny most of the time. But I get what you're saying. But Robin Williams was a really funny man. But his best stuff, funny. His best stuff, I agree with you, was the more serious with hints of comedy.
Yeah, I like
the problem. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, it's like I never cared much for a stand-up either. It's just it's too manic for me.
Too frenetic for you?
Yeah, it wears me out. And it's like 5 minutes of that and I'm done. It's like, okay. I can't, like, I get anxious around.
What's funny about that is his delivery is very manic, and he doesn't give you time to saturate the joke. I totally get that. That's why I love guys like Mitch Hedberg or George Carlin, because they give you the joke and then they let you eat it. Right.
Yeah, right.
But if you read Robin Williams, he's that funny. Like, to me,
sure.
Like Richard Pryor, like, in their delivery of just, it's like an onslaught. But that's not why we're here. In Popeye, he only hits that serious, I'm sad note, and it feels good with me once, and that's when he sings the Sweet Pea song and writes the letter.
Right.
Like, that's really good. I don't think Robert Altman, in multiple aspects, knew what he had in Robin Williams.
Sure. I would say, though, letting Robin Williams off the chain for Popeye wouldn't have felt right either.
It would in a couple scenes, not the entirety of the movie.
Sure. Like in a couple of scenes,
you can get both. I mean, the best Robin Williams movies have both. Right.
But I'm just thinking like of Popeye, the character is not exactly, he's kind of a reactive character. He's not like he's always kind of reacting to like the kooky things that are going on around him.
I agree with that. But he's also, even the muttering is almost too reserved in this movie. Like, that's like, I loved like trying to figure out what the hell Popeye's saying in the cartoons. Half the times you can't, but he's muttering and he's saying like nonsensical or sensical, funny or poignant things.
Right.
In this movie, he doesn't really do that.
And it's all like, yeah. And in this movie, he is kind of, but it's all delivered the same way. And I mean, I had to put the subtitles on because I didn't know when he was making a joke and when he wasn't, you know?
There is a little bit of a difference at times when he's muttering to himself and he's working out. So like when he leaves Olive's party, he's talking to, like he's saying, it's like, oh, they didn't, or, like they invited me and nobody, talked to me or whatever. And then there's when he was kind of being down on himself, he has a gruffer voice. And so there were two different voices in that scene but I will give you that he doesn't quite do that enough to where you, like, if he's trying to work something out with himself, he doesn't change that to enough. And that's probably a, I don't know.
Well, here's another thing to think about. Almost all of his dialogue had to be re-recorded.
Oh yeah,
and then ADR'd in because it was even worse with him talking with the pipe.
Yeah,
like you couldn't understand a damn thing he said, so they had to re-record all of it. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not super surprised by that.
But then when you're in a studio, and you're re-recording the dialogue and you're trying to find the voice and you're trying to find the tone, I mean, it becomes another challenge, right?
Yeah, because it's probably fatigue at that point.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think the whole cast was just like kind of miserable on that set in Malta for however long they were there.
You can feel it. You can feel it in the performances. It's really unfortunate because
Now, some of the performances are really good. Some of them are really good.
I think quite a few of them are good enough.
Yeah.
For sure. Should I just run through like the first act so we can get to when the movie really picks up, just so people know what's going on, like a quick run through?
Sure.
Popeye's looking for his dad, right? His dad left him when he was 3 or 4 years old, whatever age, 2, maybe 2. So he's been sailing as a sailor for the last 7 years looking for his dad, who he's still in love with. In his mind, his dad is a great man, even though he left him.
Although there were times where he would bounce him on his knee and sometimes miss.
Yes, my dad would throw me in there all the time, and when I came down, I was gone.
Yeah, he was gone, yeah.
So every description was really kind of pitiful, of like it's letting you know, like Popeye doesn't have a good read on emotion, right? Or the situation. But so he comes to Sweet Haven. Sweet Haven's run by the Commodore, who's never, ever there. He has a proxy named Bluto, who we all know if you know who Popeye is. He's the town heavy who enforces shit. The tax man who's taxing everyone for everything. Popeye has a run-in with Dennis Franz.
Well,
he's trying to find a place to stay.
When he's trying to find a place to stay, there's nobody will let him in. Like
everyone's shutting the windows.
Right. They don't want an outsider in this town.
Right. They don't want him to ruin their perfect life.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Except there is one place that will let him in, and that's the Oils.
The Oils house. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which we have Castor Oil, who's Olive Oil's brother.
Yep.
Coal Oil. These names are hilarious.
Yeah.
What is the mom's name? I don't remember.
Nana Oil.
Nana Oil. She's the only one that's not a joke on oil, unless I'm missing it.
Could be a banana oil. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
Because Castor and coal, like coal is a joke of a different source of
castor oil. Yeah.
Yeah. And coal.
Yeah.
And Popeye just there's some good stuff that happens when Popeye gets to the Oils.
My favorite is castor oil. It's like there's a stranger in tea. That was the first time I laughed. I was like, oh, thank God.
Well, Donovan Scott was in the Police Academy movies.
Yeah, I remember him.
He was the rich
trying
kid.
To place him.
Actually, castor oil is way up there in my favorite characters in this movie. He is great when he does his little inner dialogue thing later before he fights the guy. Fucking killed me.
Or even if my mom would kill me if she knows I was here. My mom is here.
My mom is here.
We'll get to that scene. That's my favorite in the movie, probably.
The boxing match? Yeah, it's good.
Well, the boxing match.
The House of Ill Repute. Yeah.
That's pretty good.
So Popeye gets knocked over and run over by these brutes, goes into the Oils house. He's still kind of an invisible man when he lives there, right? Or when he's staying there.
Well, yeah, because at one point, like the Oil household is all excited because Olive is going to be proposed to by Bluto at a party that night.
Yes.
And he is...
Or the next night.
It might be the next.
It is the next night. Yeah.
Yeah, because Olive doesn't like her hats, but she's trying to find a reason not to be. She doesn't really want to be with Bluto. In a way, it almost feels like she's being married to him because the Oils get perks in the town because they don't get taxed. They're the only people in town who don't get taxed.
Well, yeah. So half the time she's trying to convince herself that he's a good man, which she knows he's not.
Right. And
the other half the time she's fighting her family about like, well, I'm not going to ask my soon-to-be husband to buy us new plates or new knives or new forks or new.
Right. You're taking advantage of this guy. Yeah.
Which in reality, he probably deserves it. He would deserve to be taken advantage of, but she's using those things as like, I'm not going to take advantage of this rich man whom I love to try to get out of it because she doesn't love him.
No, right? Which is why she's trying to run away from him later. Before the party.
Of course, but she's having an inner conflict.
Absolutely. Now, meanwhile, Popeye's just standing there while she's bitching about her hats. And then she goes off on him, and then he kind of gives it back to her a little bit, but kind of under his breath. And
my buddy Ian is exactly like Popeye. Go ahead.
Right. Because, at one point, he even says something like really kind of mean, but then she's like, what did you say? And he's like, oh, you have really nice weather around here.
Yeah.
She says,
well, his mom keeps calling him her mom keeps calling him Mr. I.
Right.
And he gets aggravated by that. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just Popeye. Yeah. And then she won't let him sleep on the bed, which it breaks anyway. Even though they're letting him use this room. So he has to set up a hammock.
Mm-hmm.
And he's got his picture of his papa.
Me, Papa. I love how he stares at it for a minute almost on camera, and you're like,
and he's talking to him. Yeah, he's
talking to him. Yeah,
yeah.
And then he hangs it on the wall and just says, "Me, Papa."
which is funny because Poop Deck Pappy has the same thing except
Me
for it's
son.
like, me son. Yeah.
Yeah. You just spoiled it, Jeff. You weren't going to spoil it.
No, I didn't spoil anything yet. Poop Deck Pappy is in this movie.
Yeah, he is.
Because of course he is. So yeah, so like he's, and the oil house is kind of insane because they also Wimpy is always over there, and also like I don't know, like a Orthodox like Russian like
Undertaker. He's an Undertaker.
He's an Undertaker, but he looks like Rasputin.
Yes. So this is. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
All I was going to say is like their energy is normal to them.
Yes.
Right. It's only abnormal to us because we're watching in Popeye because he's there.
Well, we're with Popeye at this
They're
point.
very functional as a family, but it looks dysfunctional.
Well, it doesn't help that like Popeye is trying to be like a gentleman and stand up when Nana is standing up.
He stands up like 11 times
because she keeps getting up to like feet, because it's so frantic.
Yeah,
and then they all get into an argument. They all leave, and Popeye never got anything to eat. To which he says one of my favorite lines, which is, "I guess it's good never to be over full."
Yes.
When he doesn't get anything, it's like he actually takes things in stride. He doesn't ever really get angry about anything. He's showing that he's a good guy.
Yes, and then the next morning,
that's when everything is food.
He gets a burger, but he doesn't get to eat his burger because
he has to give it to Wimpy. Yes.
So Wimpy will talk to him. And once Wimpy has the burger, he won't even listen. So there is a little bit of an expo dump here.
Right.
The people that jumped over on Popeye are there. Those other, I'm assuming, sailors, the tough guys.
They are the under toughs because the big tough is Bluto, but they're scared of Bluto too. So they push people around but they will only go so far up the ranks. They will not mess with Bluto.
What's the line in that scene, Jason? There's a smorgasbord of violence.
This is a smorgasbord of violence.
Yeah, so because he's telling the story and they're making fun of his story.
Yes.
And so he beats them all up, but not because he wants to beat them up. He wants an apology. They're picking on the other people of the town to give him the apology instead of apology. So he decides he's had enough.
Yeah.
And he beats the shit out of them instantly.
Yep. And you have the townspeople kind of taking their cheap shots during.
Yes. And what's funny is from that moment on, all of those toughs never mess with Popeye again. They're actually on his side.
I mean, he beat the shit out of them.
Right.
In a Popeye style.
Right. I mean, he speed bagged that one guy's face.
Yeah, that actually looked pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, that was a very Popeye thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, so right. And then like at that party, Popeye is like, he gets into his dress blues, he goes downstairs and everybody stops. They won't like talk to him or anything. And he says another line I like, which is, "Oh, I haven't had this much fun while still being conscious." Or whatever. It's something to that effect. And so he ends up leaving and the party kind of takes place again. One thing, there's a little thing about that party because it happens right after he beats up the people at Rough House's burger joint. So it's very obvious because there's a sign that says that the engagement party is being catered by Rough House.
Yeah.
Well, the only time you see Rough House at the party, he's asleep in a chair while everything else is going on around him. And it's just such a weird little thing. I was like, was there something that was left out? Or was it just like, you're tired because you always have to feed everybody. Just go to sleep in the chair. And it's just a little detail that's thrown in. Because as soon as I saw it, it's like, I couldn't stop thinking about the fact that Rough House is asleep at the party that he's catering.
Yeah, he's probably just tired. A lot of burgers.
He has to. Well, he's got to.
And he had a fight at his place earlier. I mean,
he's probably got a lot to clean up.
Shit to clean up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, so so this is where out of the blue, somebody who is deeply in debt has left Popeye a baby.
Yeah. I'll be back in 25 years.
You mean a rattlesnake?
Well, yeah. So Olive Oil thinks her basket or not her basket. She immediately identifies that the identical basket is not her basket.
It's been painted to look like my basket.
Right. It's all dirty.
So this to me is when the movie becomes interesting.
Yeah. It gets a whole lot better with Sweet Pea for sure.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of that first part is the exposition type stuff. I think that this movie is actually kind of set up very, very much like it's a series of shorts that have been stitched together. Like, making a bunch of
comic strips, perhaps.
Well, yeah. But I mean, like a lot of the cartoon, because the first part is him coming to town and getting a place to stay. And then the next cartoon is him interacting with the town, and the town sucks. Then the next story is the engagement party. The next short is now he's raising Sweet Pea with Olive Oil.
I don't disagree with you. I think we both agree with you that it is like a bunch of comic strips or cartoons stitched together.
But there is there is kind of an arching story, but it's being tied together by these shorts. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, that could work. I think some of those segments work better than others. And I just think there's it lends maybe it more to some of the disjointedness that I feel throughout the movie as well.
Sure.
And also Popeye's not a cereal, like in general. So there are a lot of stretches of moments of this that had to be like kind of fabricated into Popeye existence to make a full movie.
Sure.
Right? Like, which is
it's the medium that they're working with.
Right. And again, having watched it, I think it was a bad choice just to make a Popeye movie. But yeah. Well, it gets fun here. I think it gets fun here.
There are some fun moments.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's very clear that that Olive Oil will kind of just so Bluto gets mad because he thinks that Olive Oil and Popeye are having an affair.
Yeah.
And not only that, it had baby. Yeah.
They made a real quick baby.
Right.
And that's a funny thing,
Yeah.
Well, and it's like the whole thing of him seeing red.
That I liked that.
That's kind of one of those, let's go ahead and swing for the fences and make it look like a cartoon would.
Yeah, I quite liked that.
And him swimming away at the end with yellow. Yeah, with him swimming away yellow is a very might as well just do it cartoon style.
The only thing they missed was having someone green with envy at some point.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Or somebody holding their breath until they turn blue.
Yeah. Like blue, or sad and blue. Yeah.
Yeah.
But that leads to the unevenness, because if they did those kind of cartoony things more often, kept me in cartoon world, I probably would have enjoyed it more.
I wonder. So let's see here. This is Jules Pfeiffer who wrote this?
Yeah, he's a cartoonist.
But that's wild to me then that they wouldn't have thought more like that. But maybe that is a bad translation by Altman.
Or it could be what Jason said earlier, that Robert Evans didn't want it to be like the cartoon.
He didn't.
Yeah, but with a comic strip, you can still do some of those things.
Oh, I agree. Some of them. Yeah, but it was a black and white.
But I'm not super familiar with the comic strip and the tone.
I read a couple today, and it's all right.
Yeah. I mean, it's probably typical funny pages.
It's strips. Typical 3-4 panel stuff. Yeah.
Another thing, the Altman style of a lot of people talking at once and talking over one another doesn't suit this movie very well either. He doesn't do it as much as he did in earlier films, but you really have to find the jokes sometimes, and that's why if I didn't have the subtitles on, the captions on, I would not have picked up on probably half of the jokes that made me laugh. Right. And it's probably part of why as a kid, the humor is so dry and delivered so deadpan at times that, nothing was working for me as like a 8-year-old, right?
Oh yeah, I feel like as a 10-year-old, I was probably waiting 20 minutes a lot.
Yeah.
For a moment I enjoyed. Yeah.
You know who really, we talk about like those things that could have been increased that would have translated the, even if it was just translating a comic strip kind of idea into this, Walt Disney should have stepped up a little bit more as the co-production company of this and said,
I was kind of surprised to see them. Did they own the property at the time?
No,
it's really the only way the movie got made was Michael Eisner was at Paramount at the time.
Yeah.
And they convinced Disney to pick up half the budget. So
they had a 2-picture deal. Dragon Slayer, another major hit for them, was the other movie at that time.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And yeah, Disney was fucking pissed with the whole Robert Evans cocaine bust because they were like, Disney was linked to Popeye, linked to Robert Cocaine Evans. They were just livid. And I don't know if they've ever done a co-production again.
Wild.
Yeah.
This, for just having learned about Robert Evans like maybe a year ago, like in reality for me by watching we talked about Goodfellas with The Offer.
The Offer, yeah.
I don't know how much of that is true. And I know you read a book, Jason, but what a fascinating dude.
Yeah.
What a train wreck of a guy, really, who got shit done, right? Like,
yeah, by some way he did get some things done. So this is a good time. Thank you for the entry point. Let's talk about old Robert Evans and how this happened. So we talked about Annie, but at this point in time, Robert Evans had left Paramount. He was not an employee of Paramount. He was not studio head. Michael Eisner and Don Simpson had come in, and Evans had left. Evans was sick and tired of working his ass off and not getting any points on the pictures. As studio head, you don't get any points. You get a salary, right? Producers get points. So he wanted to be a producer. So he produced, first 2 movies he produced were this and Urban Cowboy. And I know Urban Cowboy is one that Jeff likes a lot. They were the first movies that he earned points on gross. It's a big fucking deal to earn points on gross because it's before expenses, right? So he was like, and he still honestly, did pretty well on Popeye and did really well on Urban Cowboy, producing both those movies. It's a good thing too, because he couldn't get a job for 10 years after the cocaine bust that happened.
Was he incarcerated for a few years?
No, he didn't go to prison or anything, but he copped a deal. I think he maybe paid some fines. He had to do a bunch of
community service,
like PSA kind of stuff.
Oh yeah. That's community service.
Yeah, he staged like a big drugs are bad MK sing along thing, that kind of stuff.
That's hilarious. I bet he was coked up when he did it.
But but he was unhireable after that. Right. Nobody wanted to work with him. He was persona non grata in Hollywood, and it took him a long time to claw his way back. It was around the time that Jack Nicholson, had bought his house back for him, right? Him and Jack Nicholson were best buddies.
Yeah.
But the story I want to tell, this is kind of a legendary story with Evans. Before the bust, he was planning on going out to Malta, spending a few weeks on the set to kind of oversee things, be the producer guy. And he brought a suitcase with him just chock full of cocaine, right?
Oh my God.
Just a ton of cocaine. And I guess at the time, Robert Altman was a raging alcoholic and maybe a coke fiend too. I don't know.
Robin Williams probably was.
I mean, probably most of these people were. And Robert Altman, if you hired Robert Altman, you hired his whole company, right? His whole production company. Can't remember what it's called. God, can't remember.
Don't matter.
It's Lionsgate.
Oh,
was the name of his company. So he, I don't think any relation to the later studio, right. But So he gets to Malta, but his bag doesn't get to Malta. And he starts freaking out. And there's two different versions of this story, which I love, because that's a whole Robert Evans thing too. It's like everything has two different versions. His version is that he got on a plane. Oh no, sorry. He went to the when he arrived, him and Altman arrived, they were greeted by I don't even know his name, basically the guy who runs Malta.
The Maltese Falcon.
Yeah, Maltese Falcon. And he was kind of a communist. He had said some pretty disparaging things about America not too long before this. He had aligned himself with Gaddafi, right? He was like an ally of Gaddafi, and kind of probably not a guy you want to get on the bad side of. But Robert Evans is like, fuck, I don't know. Does he know? Does he have my bag? Is he going to use it against me? Like, what is he going to do? And so he asked him. He told him, he's like, my bag it didn't get here, and he was like, I'll look into it. He's like, yeah, he's not going to look into it. He's like, well, I would really appreciate if you looked into it, because in my luggage, I think you'll appreciate that I have brought a letter personalized to you from Henry Kissinger. And he was like, what? It's like Henry Kissinger? And Robert Evans is also very good friends with Henry Kissinger. Like, they were very, very close for a long time. But he did not have this letter.
Right.
And that would not be a letter that, the Secretary of State would write to someone who was aligned with Gaddafi, right? On official paper, his signature and everything. But he was desperate. So, and coked out of his mind. So he then flies to France. He gets his bag. Bag shows up the next day, and the Maltese guy is like, that got him the bag. He was like the commandant or whatever would appreciate the letter as soon as possible or something like that. So Evans was like, well, fuck this. He gets on a plane to France, tells Robert Altman to tell the guy that he was called away on a family matter, on a family emergency. He gets to France and he calls Kissinger and he tells him the story, but doesn't bring up the part about the drugs.
Right.
He's like, I need this letter. I think that he's going to allow us to do the picture without it. And Kissinger did not want to write the letter. He absolutely did not want to write the letter, but he did. And Kissinger was in France at the time, so that's why he went to France specifically. But he gave him the letter, and he gave the letter to this Maltese
Falcon
or whatever. Yeah. And he was able to be okay. But what was really distressful and ended up destroying his relationship with Kissinger, was after the actual cocaine bust, Evans was paralyzed by fear that the letter would come out and that he would be associated in that way because of Evans' situation. And he didn't talk to Kissinger for over 10 years after that.
Damn.
Kissinger never really understood why, but he was just ashamed, so ashamed by the whole thing. But there's like a variation of the story where it was actually Don Simpson who relayed the information to Kissinger for Evans, because Don Simpson says in Easy Riders Raging Bulls that he called him in the middle of the night, told him what happened. He says, I'm in so much trouble. It's like, you got to call Kissinger for me. And Don Simpson was like, Jesus Christ. And then they got the letter that way somehow, but I don't know. It's such a weird thing.
It is.
Yeah. It's so bizarre. And then nobody at Paramount wanted to make this movie. Like, nobody except for Robert Evans. But he kind of just wore him down. That's kind of what Robert Evans does, is he wears you down until he gets his way.
I was just about to say, enough about Popeye. Let's talk about Robert Evans.
This is my last little bit here.
Sorry.
My last little bit here. But Don Simpson, who, was kind of a skeevy guy in his own right, thought that Evans was the height of sleazy and didn't like him.
Simpson thought this?
Yeah, Michael Eisner didn't like him. Simpson, there's a great...
Jason's looking for a line.
Sorry,
right now.
I should have had this.
Not like Robert Evans kind of line, a different kind of line. Jason's looking for, and I'm filling time while he looks.
Also, Don Simpson hated Altman. Really didn't like him, and thought he was all wrong for the movie. And Altman hated Don Simpson too, like big time. But maybe I'll just come back around to this quote later because it is pretty good. And what Don Simpson says about Evans, what Don Simpson says about Altman, and then what Altman says about Don Simpson is kind of amazing. They all just hated each other's guts.
Let me ask Jeff, and you're going to come around to that line, right?
I will. I'll come around to it.
Jeff, do you like that Robert Altman directed this? Do you think direction could have been a lot better, or are you fine with what you got? Honest question. I'm not leading you or anything.
It would be interesting. It would be interesting to see a movie like it doesn't have to be too much different. Hell, while we were in that Don Simpson black hole there or whatever, I did look up that Popeye Village still does exist.
Yeah, it does. It does.
So you can still go there and see the town as it was. I mean, it's a little nicer than the movie.
Is it labeled as that, or do people live?
No, it's known as either Popeye Village or Sweet Haven Village. It is an amusement park right there where the sets were built. It opened before the movie was made there because they had to build it like 6 months in advance. So
if you build it, Popeye will come.
Pretty much. There's a whole show there where you can watch Popeye get married to olive oil. Anyway.
All right. A few things here real quick. First, this is Don Simpson talking. He says, Eisner was scared of him, talking about Evans. Evans believed he was this living legend. He would come in with his sunglasses and his black clothes, and Eisner freaked. He would buzz me. He'd go, Don, you got to get in here. I'd say, what's wrong? He'd say, Evans is here, like I was the witch doctor that could deal with this maniac. When I first head of production, he worked for me as a producer. He would invite me over to his office, and he couldn't sit at his desk for more than 10 minutes without going into his bathroom and re-emerging with a mountain of white substance all over him. Later on, when I got to know him better, I'd say, Bob, you can't go out in public with a fucking ounce of blow on your chest. He'd sit there and basically try to bribe me. Said if I helped him with his project, he'd get me pussy. It drove me crazy. Not that I was any paragon of virtue, but he was so sleazy. That's Don Simpson. Don Simpson was pretty fucking sleazy. So then later, says Simpson, none of us really wanted to make Popeye. We hated Altman. He was a true fraud. I used to go into Altman's bathroom at Lionsgate at 6 o'clock at night, and there would be an empty fifth of scotch. That was from lunch till then, and he was such an alcoholic. He was full of gibberish and full of himself, a pompous, pretentious asshole. I guess Evans wanted him because Evans thought they could party together. So the fucking director was beyond a fucking drunken disaster. And then we had Evans, who didn't know what the fucking setup was. The two of them together were a dangerous combination. So then they show some of the screen tests because Eisner wanted Gilda Radner for this movie. And
that would have been interesting, actually.
It would have been, but I still think they did the right. They
probably did.
Getting Shelley Duvall was better. But selling Shelley Duvall was difficult. Not that like Radner would have been an easy sell either, really, by Don Simpson standards, because Don Simpson says after the reel finished, Simpson stood up and said, "Well, I wouldn't want to fuck her, and if I don't want to fuck her, she shouldn't be in the movie." I was appalled," said Altman. Simpson was a bad guy, a bum. That was the kind of guy who was taking over the studios. It's a big plus to our industry that he's not here anymore. Simpson died suddenly in 1966 or no, 1996. He said, This is what Altman says about Don Simpson at the end. He says, "I'm only sorry he didn't live longer and suffer more."
Jesus Christ.
So those are the people making Popeye together.
To go back to the question, it would be interesting to take some of these elements and make the movie 35 or 40 years later, where you would have people who would be a little bit more open to the idea of it should be a cartoon brought to life instead of, or even if you stuck with the comic strip thing, incorporating more of that sort of stuff into it.
Right.
I think you could improve some things there. I think, get somebody who maybe has a little bit more of a flair for making musical type movies. I mean, what about Taika Waititi?
Yeah, I was thinking that too.
Somebody who could give it a personality. Now, that doesn't necessarily immediately make it better or right, but it would be interesting. They did some 5, 6, 7 years ago, didn't they make an animated Popeye movie?
I think
a computer generated one. But I mean, I think you could take a lot of the same elements that you can almost take the screenplay and not have to change too much of it, and do something with it that I think would be closer in line to what we would think a Popeye movie should be.
Right.
Yeah, punch it up, punch it up. You give it a little bit of different.
Plus, you could do the actual, like, this movie also suffers the fact that it's a 1980s cartoon movie, and the stuff Popeye is known for is not easy to do on film. Like, you can't get him to eat spinach, fly up in the air, and both his arms go, you know.
Right.
Yeah.
You can't do that shit.
Yeah.
In the 1980s.
They did try a few things where, like, he would wind up a punch, or in the boxing match, he turned his fist.
Yeah.
And like when he did get the spinach and he punched the giant octopus out.
Ooh, I don't like that.
But it's
they were out of footage, I think, at that point, because
Well,
I was thinking Goonies at the end of this movie. The lost scenes from
the octopus.
Yeah. I mean, the one thing that I will say is that I don't mind any of that stuff being there. It's not, but that getting rid of the octopus is so quick and so poorly edited and shot.
There's a reason for that. Altman was told to come home.
Yeah,
he was like, "You've been spending too much money. Bring us what you have, and we'll make a movie."
Yeah,
and amazing.
But I mean, like, even the insert shot of Popeye, like basically torpedoing toward the octopuses, you can't hardly see it. I mean, it's just not really there.
Well, I think if you saw it, it would not look good. So it looks better than it would if you actually
but I mean,
saw it.
but you could.
I kind of like the janky look of it. Like, I don't mind that.
Yeah,
so much,
I mean, and there is a little bit of a problem with the ending because they take so long to get to the island that it. Like,
that's because they have a musical number that's not a fucking musical number, and it's really frustrating.
Yeah, that whole sequence of them going to the island could be cut.
Yeah, it could be trimmed down majorly. I'm 100% on board with that, because the problem is that the fight itself is resolved extremely quickly. One punch sends the octopus into fucking orbit, and
that looks cool, actually. But
one punch sends Bluto away yellow.
Yeah,
it's not. There's not a fight there at the end. It's missing the climax of the movie.
Yep.
Well, once Popeye takes a spinach, he usually doesn't take long to
No,
eradicate.
But you don't really see it. That's the
You don't
problem.
No,
see
I
it
agree with
really.
that.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
And he spent so much more time on that guy he speedbagged his face on
Yeah.
than he did fighting Bluto. There's a problem there.
Yeah.
Bluto is such, I mean, like, I don't need them fighting multiple times, but like the whole setup of Bluto.
You don't need them sword fighting, for Christ's sake.
No, but I mean, like, having Bluto constantly being around when Popeye is doing something sets up a big fight at the end.
Right.
That should come down to fisticuffs because that's what Bluto and Popeye do.
That's what I'm saying. They shouldn't have sword fought.
100 P agree.
My suspicion is that the sword fight was part of a larger fight that would have ended in a big fisticuffs fight.
Probably.
That wasn't able
That didn't
to be
get shot.
Yeah.
That would have been way too long too. But yeah.
Well, but not if you cut down all of them.
But they could have done something in editing. Yeah. I mean,
No, absolutely. But if they showed that whole sequence and then a fisticuffs, it would have been like, oh my God,
you cut down,
finish this up already.
You cut down them getting to the island in favor of
that too.
All of the fighting that has to take place at the island.
Because
definitely.
I don't know how much of the interim we're going to go through because we've already started talking about the end. The whole olive oil in the I don't know if that's a steam pipe or what that is from the ship. What is that thing?
Oh, I never know. I mean,
I don't know what that whole.
It's what Indiana Jones escaped the Nazis from in Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Help!
That might feel like the most Popeye to me.
Uh-huh.
Yes,
most definitely.
Like
I mean,
her stuck in that thing.
The only thing that's missing is an actual literal word bubble coming out and traveling to Popeye and smacking him in the back of the head.
Yeah. Like they nailed that. Like if you had Dirk Dastardly put a girl on a train track.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. No, I mean, that whole ending is the Popeye cartoons that Chuck, you and I know.
Yes.
You know, it's like, and the funny story about the Popeye cartoons is it used to come on after the old original Thursday and Sunday only on Sunday night after Adult Swim, the Popeye show came on.
I remember
I would watch that after Cowboy Bebop. And that's the most I ever watched Popeye in my life was in my mid 20s. I didn't want to go to bed after Adult Swim. I wanted to watch Popeye.
I remember that.
But anyway, so like the whole thing is that the whole plot comes down to the second half of the movie is Sweet Pea knows how to, like, is kind of a little bit of a sage or knows like it can tell the future. They discover because Popeye
he's a psychics.
Popeye gets into the ring with the town boxer and wins free taxes for like 2 weeks.
Yeah. And Linda Hunt is the boxer's mom. That's so weird. She's like, that's Linda Hunt.
Yeah, it's Linda Hunt. Right there she is. But anyway, he gets into because the boxer makes a fool out of Castor.
Yeah.
And so Popeye springs to action to get into the ring to fight the guy. Another good, I think, a good, kind of adaptation of a Popeye short.
Oh God, when Castor Oil in his inner dialogue says, "I'm fast, I'm foxy. You could have a heart attack."
Yeah.
But yeah, this fight is like,
and his mom says, "He's got to dance with those feet." Look, so many little good lines sprinkled throughout this movie.
If this was the fight we got with Bluto at the end, in a matter of speaking, it would have been a better movie.
Exactly. We spend more time with him in this boxing ring than we do with him fighting both Bluto and an octopus.
Yeah.
Yes, and then 30 minutes on a boat. But
right. A long time on that boat.
This is really good. You mentioned it earlier, like him twisting his glove, him kind of like the Popeye dance, right?
Yeah.
Like I don't know. This is really Popeye too. It's probably the second most Popeye feel of the movie.
The way that the very last frames of this movie where he's singing his own theme song is a Popeye cartoon.
Well, so I told Jason again earlier because I think you were watching it. I thought you were watching it and I don't remember, but that is the most exuberant this movie is. And I really like They must have filmed this song first or early on or something, because it feels like everyone is enjoying what they're doing.
Oh, yeah.
It's the first time I felt that.
Apparently has not become Stalag Altman yet.
Yeah, Stalag Altman.
Yeah, as Robin Williams described it. No, because I mean, like him dancing around and Olive kind of singing along with it is the cartoon. I mean, it is come to life, in my opinion.
Yeah, and there is like a journey of Popeye here. Like, I was a little disappointed early on that he didn't sing on Popeye the Sailor Man when he's saying "Blow Me Down," but he never had spinach yet.
Yeah, and he does have the I am what I am. In the casino or in the horse race.
That's really like that whole horse race storyline, I think, is the best cartoon in air quotes in the whole movie.
Yeah, absolutely. Because so they take Wimpy, who is just always looking for a quick buck, takes Wimpy for a quote unquote walk, which cracks me up.
These are difficult times.
Yeah, it takes Sweepy for
you could buy 180 burgers with this money or whatever he says. Sorry, go ahead, Jeff.
But Popeye has the really good moment where he knows he kind of thinks Wimpy's up to something, which we know Wimpy is up to something, and he's like, but wait a minute, Sweepy can't walk. It's like, no, I'll carry her. Oh, okay. Yeah, but like, even if Popeye and Olive know something is up, but Popeye does not take it to the right direction.
It's his Uncle Wimp.
Yeah, so he ends up going to the horse races, which I love the fact that the horse races aren't real horses.
Yeah, it's the crank.
It's the Midway game.
Yep.
Basically, and it's in the middle of a brothel, which is hilarious. But so this is where Popeye, he doesn't want Sweepy in a place like this. Olive has a really funny moment where she doesn't want Sweepy there until she realizes, hey, wait a minute, Sweepy can help me bet on the horses and we can win the money back from Bluto destroying our house and taxing us out the ass.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that's really funny too, because she goes from disgusted with Wimpy to suddenly siding with him. And then that's when Popeye's had enough. He doesn't want Sweepy around any of this stuff. But there's also a whole plot in place where Bluto decides he wants to kidnap Sweepy. Another very cartoony Bluto thing.
Oh, yeah. I mean, this is 100% Bluto cartoon.
Yeah. And
he knows something that the rest of us don't. It's never expressly said, but I'm pretty sure he's aware of the spoiler you didn't want to share earlier.
Right. So he's going to kidnap the baby, and he's going to take the baby to the Commodore to say, hey, we can break the bank, which the Commodore later says very funnily that I own the bank. It's my money. You're taking from me, basically.
Right.
Yeah. But the Commodore, we find out, is Poop Deck Pappy.
Oh my God.
And he has all this money, and he basically bought this town because he has some treasure, which is garbage. It's just garbage.
It's personal. Which is kind of sweet.
It's personal, but it's like, I don't know how that translated to him running this town, but he's able to run it because he's taxed everybody.
He's running it on reputation. It has nothing to do with what he has. Yeah.
Right. He runs it on reputation as a quote unquote rich person. Now he's become rich because he taxes everybody. So he does technically ultimately have the power. Because he has put the thumb on everybody.
I like when he tells Bluto, I got millions of enemies and you is 10 or 12 of them.
Which is a perfect line.
That's a perfect line.
There are perfect lines in this movie for the situation. That's why I say take this script, give it to Waititi, and see if he can make a different movie that is more colorful and
it'd be an interesting experiment. Yeah. I also like when Olive Oil and she convinces Wimpy to tell her what's going on. He takes her to the commander's boat.
Commodore.
And
he's a Commodore, damn it.
Commodore, Poop Deck Pappy's boat. And then she comes back and tells Popeye that we found him. It's like, who? Everyone.
That's funny. Even when he's walking up, he's like, well, you are where you ain't. Or you ain't in there. I know you ain't in here.
Right.
You know, with his Popeye ways.
Yeah, because like he is going to go and prove her wrong that she didn't find everyone.
Right.
Yeah. And this is where the whole town is already suddenly on his side because he dumped the tax man.
Yeah.
Which is funny because anybody could have done that. It was an accident that Popeye didn't even mean to do.
They were afraid they were going to get a dunk in the tax.
Yeah.
Forget the tax man. They were afraid of Bluto. And they saw Popeye beat up the biggest fighter in the city. So they knew that he at least had a chance against Bluto.
Yeah. I mean, Popeye
none of them would stand up to Bluto. They think Popeye can.
Right. Now, granted, Popeye has been, since he beat up the Roughnecks and Roughnecks
threw a piano from the ground 10 feet in the air.
Yes.
Like almost everyone in the town aware he's strong enough that he might be able to defeat Bluto, and none of them.
And he is building the cred to be the town hero.
Yes.
Throughout from moment one. Yeah.
Yes, he's much more of a Jack Burton than Jack Burton ever was.
Right. Yes. Yes. He just needs a little helper against Bluto.
So
and the giant octopus.
So I do want to talk about this next scene because it really drove me nuts. So Bluto is strung Poop Deck Pappy up.
Hmm.
Popeye goes in there. Bluto sneaks out with Sweet Pea. Fine. Like, that's very cartoony stuff, right?
Sure.
Like, the bad guy sneaks out.
The only thing you're missing is the little piano as he's coming around the corner to go
tiptoeing up. Right. Like, he totally would have been tiptoeing, like, literal tiptoes. This whole scene between these two, like, when Popeye is whining about taking his spinach and stuff, I'm like, I wanted to punch my TV. I don't know why. How did this play for you guys? Because it really annoyed me. I don't know why.
It's fine to me because it is one of those times where I feel like that is Robin Williams being Robin Williams.
It's weird to me because I agree, but it's also like almost out of the bluish. And
it didn't bother me.
I think it annoyed the shit out of me.
I kind of like the twist on it in a little bit. You know, that Bluto's the one who had to feed him the spinach because he knew he didn't want it.
Well, I'm not there yet. Like that. I'm talking about just Commodore
in the boat.
In the boat. Yeah. Oh, I liked it.
I saw it as kind of Popeye is instantly back to being 3 years old again.
I did too. I just didn't like the way it was, and like. What I keep saying, who's the guy that plays him?
Ray Walston.
He, out of everyone, feels the most like he didn't want to fucking be there to me.
To me, he felt the most cartoonish out of everyone.
Maybe. And I think there's that like speaks to the unevenness of the movie to me.
Fair.
Is like we get to this moment and it's like, I'm expecting because of how I'm air quoting shit. I wish I wasn't serious the movie has been or how it's tried to be. All of a sudden it turns into this different thing for the next 25 minutes. That's
fair because the entire time on the boat getting close and Ray Walston bitching and moaning about having kids and everything. That is a cartoon where it's like, okay, we need to wrap things up. We need to get over there and punch a Bluto.
That's a musical number, Jeff. It's not a musical number. Oh my God.
No, I know what you're saying there. But again, that's one of those moments where you waited too long in between songs. This needed to be more. But
he doesn't sing it either, which I maybe wouldn't expect him to had I been in gear.
But I think it needed to be a song. I'm with you on that. I'm with you on that. That's the one complaint. My biggest complaint with this is not the biggest complaint you guys have. My biggest complaint is the fact that they didn't go all in with.
They didn't commit to the musical.
They didn't commit to the musical, and it's the same problem I had with Bob's Burgers last year that they just didn't commit to the musical part.
1,000% on board with you there.
But I think if they committed properly to the musical, it would have solved my other problem of energy
Fair enough. Well, that's possible.
1,000% agree with you there too.
But it's a chicken and egg sort of thing with you guys, I think. It's like,
I don't know.
Because it's like, can the energy be there without it being committed to a musical? Possibly, but the musical certainly would have brought everything up.
Well, let's real quickly, because I don't want to belabor this. If this movie was cartoony the whole way through and not a musical, good. If this if this movie played serious with musical numbers that like hit the notes of the film, also good.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's chicken and egg. I think they're different scenarios that I would have accepted.
Okay.
I agree with that.
Okay.
Yep.
No, yeah. And so like, I mean, there is still a version of this movie. I mean, like, okay, I said, I'd like to see what Taika Waititi would have done with this because I think he would have committed all the way to everything.
Right.
But if you would have had somebody like a James Gunn make this movie, he would have done none of the musical stuff until the very end when Popeye sings his own song.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right. It would have been like Magnolia, but different.
Exactly. Yeah, but but he's done that. He's always had a musical moment in every one of his movies. Even
I like
in the
that
specials,
too.
There's a musical dance moment.
Mm-hmm.
I like that too. The out of the blue musical moment.
Exactly.
I receive that very well when it's done well.
Right. So there's your balance. It's like, well, one guy who goes all the way in with every element, the musical, the cartoony, or you have a guy who translates the cartoon and leaves the music out until the very end.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, and use other music for the rest of the whatever.
Well,
but
obviously you need other.
Well, sure. But I mean,
you need a soundtrack.
It does not necessarily have to be. I mean, it could have some of the same songs in it, honestly, just played differently and not sung. But anyway, no, but I mean, like, yeah. So, I mean, I really, we get to the island finally. That's another issue. You got to trim that down and bulk up the ending. But they get to the island and they save Sweet Pea and Olive Oil, which how they save Sweet Pea is actually that's a good moment. They figure out, because they
hook the baby
octopus,
on.
Yeah, the giant octopus is going to get the boat and is going to crush the boat and take the baby with it. And you see it, and then you see that they just hook the baby with the thing that they use to get the treasure out. And that's a good scene. That's actually kind of a tense moment.
Yeah. Even when Olive Oil gets taken underwater is a tense moment.
That's a tense moment. Yeah. It's not shot well, but it's a tense moment.
No, you don't know what's going on.
Right. Well, the above water stuff is done well. The showing the octopus reach for her and watching what's going on is fine. It's when you get both the character and the octopus in the same spot.
When you could tell that Olive Oil is controlling what the octopus is doing,
right.
I'm with you.
Right. I mean, but just generally, it doesn't look good.
No,
just the way it's shot. But anyway, yeah. So Poop Deck Pappy's treasure that Bluto thinks is gold or doubloons or whatever is
the stuff that Popeye's always treasured. Exactly.
It's Popeye's bronze booties. It's a picture that says "me son," and I think there's like a little toy in there too. I think.
Yeah, and he gives it to. I think he gives it to Sweet Pea.
Right.
It really is just showing you that Poop Deck Pappy is the same as Popeye. He's just got a gruff exterior.
Right.
Right. The things he's treasured in his life are the same things that Popeye treasures.
Right. And for all we know, he had to leave Popeye like the lady had to leave Sweet Pea.
He got put in jail. He explains that, but it's not in a really great way. Right. Another part of the movie that might have made more sense if it was dealt with better.
Maybe. Yeah. Yeah. But anyway,
if you were to write new songs in 1980 or today, Who would you pick? Because I have options. I have two that
You mean the people to write
if you were
the
to
music?
if you were to scrap the soundtrack and rewrite the songs, new songs, who would you pick in 1980 and who would you pick in today?
God, I almost want to say Paul Williams in 1980.
Bingo.
I would have asked George Harrison.
That would be pretty good too.
I like that too. I almost said Bob Dylan because of the tone of the movie too.
But that tone could be changed by one of the other two guys too. With
Absolutely. So if we're going with the tone of the actual movie, I'd say Bob Dylan. If we're trying to,
could probably do it too.
Yeah, if we're trying to pop it up, I like Paul Williams. Today, I have
no idea who
I'm not as up on.
There's
people.
one obvious choice that you both know.
Connor Oberst.
I would.
I almost said Amy Mann.
It's Flight of the Conchords.
Oh, sure.
Oh my God.
Well,
yes.
yeah, especially if Taika Waititi.
If Taika did it, absolutely.
Yeah.
1000%.
Or even if you just got Brett to do his more like straight songs, but with a little bit more of a comedic side to it, it would be really good.
Brett would be the Bob Dylan. Yeah. Like in my mind, the Flight of the Conchords would be the Paul Williams kind of. Yep. Not that Paul Williams is funny, but it's more elevated. Like
Paul Williams.
Well, it's funny because they both have done Muppet music, so
exactly,
exactly. Yeah, that's true. That's true. I'm glad I got it half right. But, yeah.
No, I mean here's. Let's get down to brass tacks. I do still like this movie, but I am connected to it in a way that you guys aren't.
Yeah, that's very true.
Whereas
I'm disconnected from it now because I used to be connected to it. But
and that's fair. I mean, that's fair too. I mean, and like I said, like the critic response to this is pretty split. Siskel and Ebert really, really liked it. A lot of other major critics on their level did not at all.
I got to say one thing. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but there's a lot of critics on the internet that did not like this movie's chicken. Jason, you know this. There are a bunch of people that reviewed this movie but are actually putting reviews for Popeye's chicken on the internet.
Yes. It's true. It's Chuck sent me some screenshots. It's fucking hilarious.
Oh, that's hilarious.
If you get a chance, go to Google and look at reviews for the Popeye movie, and people are really mad about the chicken. It's hilarious. I'm sorry to interrupt there with that.
That's hilarious.
It's really funny.
Now, I do have a quick story.
Here's one. It says, really bad customer that gave the wrong chicken. And when I came back to get the correct order, the lady that claimed to be the manager, Rocio GM, told that she didn't care that I didn't have the chicken that I ordered. I asked for her district manager number, and she refused to give the number and start. And then you have to go to Yelp and get on the app, and nobody wants to have that.
So I mentioned earlier that I nearly died watching this.
Oh
movie.
yeah.
So I actually have a prop here. So you guys know what this is, right?
Tootsie Roll.
Oh, I remember those.
Tootsie Roll. Yeah.
It's the Tootsie Roll Bank. Now,
the bank. Yeah.
43 years ago, these things were almost twice as long, and you could buy them. Now, for people at home listening, I'm holding a Tootsie Roll Bank that I actually
about a 6-inch, and it would have been about 12-inch double size. If you unfolded it. Yeah. Go ahead.
If I'm reading one of those magazines we talked about last
time. I almost said that.
Well, God damn it, you said it. So anyway, so they used to be, quite a bit bigger than this. Was $1.18 at Walmart yesterday. I saw it. I'm like, I'm buying a prop for our episode. When I was almost 4 years old, I bought one of these at the movie theater when we saw Popeye. Now they sold the full sized one. And during the course of 114 minutes, I ate the entire thing. Towards the end of the movie, I began choking on one of the Tootsie Rolls, to the point where the person sitting in front of us in the movie theater like turned around and was like, "What the hell's wrong with that kid?" And that's when I threw up on one of my brothers, just Tootsie Roll sludge onto his jacket, and probably.
How have you never told this story? Like, even
I think
just
I've actually heard this story.
Oh, okay.
I think I have actually heard this.
Okay.
So yeah, so
I don't think I knew it was during Popeye, but
it was during Popeye. Yeah, because I remember as Bluto was swimming away, I was like, "It's coming, it's coming back," and it just was Tootsie Roll sludge. It's one of my earliest memories.
So at the end of the movie, you're like, "I'm Jeffrey the Pukey Man."
Yeah, right.
I'm Jeffrey the Pukey Man.
I also have another story to tell. I actually wrote a Film Seizure song to do for the beginning of this episode. And I decided not to do it.
Well, you should have me sing it. I do really good when we do that.
Yeah. Anyway, so to celebrate, I am going to eat one of these Tootsie Rolls and not throw it up or choke on it.
Will you email me one?
Yeah, I'll email you one. Yeah.
Thank you.
Jason, would you like one too?
I want a pizza roll.
Okay, well,
email me a pizza roll.
I've also choked and puked on those too. I'm pretty sure in my life. Anyway, I can't get these fucking things. I can't.
Cool. All right. Well, what's next week? Jeff or Chuck, you're on mute somehow. Boy, this is devolving.
This is great. This is part of the Popeye song I wrote. How we can't finish episodes.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me now?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I don't know how I was on mute. Go ahead.
Anyway, next week, I'll make sure to do some homework for this pick that Jason had so that I can tell stories about the Coked Out production of it.
Yes. I don't remember what next week is.
Grand Tour Disaster in Time, also known as Timescape.
Oh, yes. Boy, this episode could be bad because I haven't seen this movie in a long time.
Yeah, it's not like you're owed one of those.
And it could be bad. But it could be fun. So
you know what I appreciate about us?
And find out.
You know what I appreciate about us, and this is an honest to goodness thought. When we talked about Dick Tracy, when we didn't agree necessarily on stuff,
we didn't agree at all on stuff.
It was way less productive than this episode.
That's
so
very
I
true.
think if your movie sucks, we can still talk about it intelligently.
I'm still gonna tell a 20-minute story about cocaine in a bag.
Okay.
Maybe
you definitely have to have a random 20-minute Robert Evans story. Like that's gotta happen.
I'll work on that.
Boy, could they have put a Robert Evans production in any bigger like font and text on the screen at the beginning of this movie?
They put it in Popeye font.
I wrote it really big.
It was in Popeye font, and it was pretty.
He paid for that. He paid for that.
It's like holy crap! Yep, that is some ego.
So next week is Grandscape Illusions in Time.
Yes.
That's exactly right.
That's exactly right.
I've never seen this movie. I've never heard of this movie except for Jason talking about it all the time.
Sweet.
Yeah. I love this movie. I hope I still love this movie. Chuck is all frozen for me. He's got the cheese and face. Is he frozen for you?
Yeah, but I can still hear him, or I did.
I was about to take a screenshot and
anyway.
Let's land this episode. Let's land it.
Yeah, this episode is.
This is like Robert Evans frantically trying to get to Malta to get his bag.
This is like the Robin Williams that Jeff doesn't like.
Yeah. Okay, so next Wednesday morning, Grand Tour Disaster in Time, also known as Timescape. There's a really good possibility I'm going to choke on this Tootsie Roll because all the juice is coming down my throat.
Oh, God. He's going to vomit. He's actually going to vomit.
Anyway, that's next Wednesday morning. Go to filmseizure.com. Check out all the places you can follow us. You can find all of that information on the page. This Monday, for Monster Mondays, Shit, this Tootsie Roll is all stuck in my teeth now.
That was a bad idea to eat that.
It was a bad idea 43 years ago too.
Jeff never learns. He's like a comic book character.
Yeah, I got to keep the status quo at all times.
Yeah.
This Monday on Monster Mondays, I have The Abominable Dr. Phibes with Vincent Price. Good.
I'm gonna
stuff.
watch that ahead of your.
Good. I think you'll like it a lot, Chuck. It's a beautiful movie. At the very least, you'll like looking at it. It's a good movie in general. So that's Monday afternoon, same places, filmseizure.com and what have yous. This Friday at my website, bmovieenema.com, I have a review of House on the Edge of the Park, a movie that actually I thought was going to be a lot sleazier than it was, but it turned out to be a lot better than I could have possibly hoped it to be.
Yeah, it's good.
That's a good flick.
Is that Fulci or Matai?
No, it's I'm not sure.
Ruggero Deodato.
Yeah,
it's Deodato.
Yes, Deodato, and it's David Hess is this. Oh, he's good in it.
Yeah,
nice.
It's real good.
Nice.
Good movie. So that is bmovieenema.com. Check things out there. Yeah, so I think we finally have done it. We can mark Popeye off the calendar, which means it's only a matter of time before Urban Cowboy gets picked.
Yeah.
Until next week, when we have an ass disaster in space and time, also known as having lunch at Taco Bell. I am Jeff Arbuckle.
I'm kind of relieved.
I'm Jason Oliver, and you have been listening to Film Seizure.